You made me honorary professor of medical education. So I am now one of you. We worked together closely, very closely indeed, actually, because I think we were part of, in fact, we wrote the grant for the first capacity building project in medicine. And then we were part of the one where I think you were the first to lead the capacity building project. So our association is very strong. Right, I've shortened my title to MOOCs in 2025. So now I have to tell you, MOOCs, of course, are massive open online courses. Now I need to tell you what are MOOCs and why I chose 2025. What are MOOCs? MOOCs are massive open online courses. They're free to use. They're free to use for the whole world. But you pay if you get a certificate. So anybody can access them and they can complete the course, but they pay to get a certificate. They're on multiple online platforms. They're partnered with prestigious universities, places like Hopkins and Stanford. They are on a limited number of different platforms: Coursera, edX, Khan, Udacity, and the one that we work with is Future Learning. The course is constructed of a variety of learning tools, but they tend to be fairly simple tools, just very well put together. So these are very good distance education courses, but they don't do anything terribly fancy. They use videos and quizzes and very simple tools that we would normally think of using in our standard teaching now in technology. And I think I've just gone forward, I'll go back. The one that we use, oh, thank you. It's okay, it's not working. It's not good. Okay. Now, they've got limited assessment models typically because they're being used completely online. So it tends to be things like MCQ, multiple choice questions, and single best answers. But that's developing very fast as people produce improved models of assessment. And they rarely lead to qualification. At least that was true until maybe about the middle of last year. But now there are some formal qualifications, things that we recognize as formal, like master's courses. Will they disrupt our medical education practices? Probably, because they do have the advantage that they put a lot of individual learning on the user, and they use less staff time. The one that we use is Future Learn. It's founded by the Open University, which obviously has been running in distance education for a very long time. Again, they tend to be fairly. It has Future Learn has 6,700,000 distinct users. They tend to be very simple, clean layouts. You've got video, text, and forums. You have it week by week. You'll have a series of steps. It's very structured, but what they rely on a lot is a strong emphasis on social learning, students actually getting together and discussing things online. And believe it or not, that really does work very well, because the student satisfaction on MOOCs is actually very high, particularly on Future Learn MOOCs. Right, now getting back to 2025. Why choose 2025? Well, it's not too far ahead, and technology does change quite a bit. Many different technologies are described as actually being here in 2025, or will be doing this by 2025. So it seemed reasonable to try that. But there is what we would call a caveat. It's how successful are predictions in technology, really? Often not. This was a couple of the examples. I think this is the IBM chairman. I think there is a world market for maybe 5 computers, and those computers would have been smaller than the power of your smartphone by a long way. Computers in the future may weigh no more than 1.5 tons, and I think all our phones weigh a lot less than 1.5 tons. Many do realize the problem of prediction, but there is actually one strange one, because Bill Gates said, we always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. Well, he should have told this actually to his the next chief executive of Apple, because of Microsoft, because the chief executive of Microsoft said there's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. So predictions actually can be very, very difficult indeed. Does anyone remember Back to the Future? Back to the Future too? Put your hand up if you remember Back to the... Oh, you do? Oh, fantastic. Right, okay. Okay, now, let's see if I can get this running. Right. Now it's gone. Right, okay, no sound. But this was supposed to be happening by 2016, right? Last year. So the film was made in the 1980s, and that was supposed to be happening. Flying cars, there was going to be huge 3D holograms, there was going to be skateboards that you ran around on. And in fact, all the engineering things never came at all, not all of them. But the technology ones tended to. The simple ones actually did. So technology tends to move often faster or less predictably than we expect. So we're looking towards the future of MOOCs. What typically happens to new exciting learning tools? And this is a cycle which you can apply to any e-learning tool. And it's this. On the left-hand side, you have the visibility and acceptance of the tool here. That's the visibility acceptance, that's how people see it. And here's with time. So what happens at the beginning is you have hype. People say, this is a wonderful tool, this is an absolutely fabulous tool, it's going to change everything. Then you have hope, because the learners and the teachers also think, hey, this is really going to work. Then you have disillusionment. And right at the bottom, you have the trough of disillusionment, because it didn't do what people actually thought. And then you get a period actually of reappraisal, where people start to look at it again and say, well, it didn't do exactly what we expected. What it actually does is something perhaps just as good. And eventually you get up onto a plateau, which is the plateau of productivity. So let's look at how this worked with the MOOCs statements. So the first statement actually was from no less than Nature. Nature said, massive open online courses, transform higher education and science. Notice the word transform. We use transform all the time. And then the hope. In 2025, will we still be sending our kids to school? Oh, yes, you will. Yes. Later on. In 25 years of observing higher education, I've never seen anything move this fast. He should have known better than to say that. You know when you say something like that, it's never going to be true. And then business gets into it. The disruptive potential of MOOCs is evident in the flow of capital investments, and now business is investing in MOOCs too. Venture funding to education tech companies jumped 55%. Fantastic. And then you get down here. MOOCs can be the least effective method when it comes to serving the student who needs educational resources most. And that is where MOOCs went the wrong way, because MOOCs were providing services for the wrong audience, and I'll come back to that. But then this is the best, this is the one I like most of all. October 2016. Forecast for MOOCs isn't entirely gloomy, which we've got all the way from it's an amazing product to nothing at all. Where will we be? Where are we now? I think right now we're about where that star is, 2017, and where we want to be is actually on that plateau. What in general do we expect from the future anyway? We know that everything is going to change a bit, but which bits are going to change most? We know that we can learn from anywhere. This is happening all the time. We're using flipped classroom models, and people are studying their material independently of students. There's a lot of personalised learning going on, and you can do that anywhere. The mobile handset is being used more and more and more. and there are 5.5 billion people over the age of 14, and there's 5 billion mobile handsets in circulation. Classrooms. We're flipping the classroom, doing the study first, discussing it with the expert in the classroom later. But do we need a physical classroom? Even in this picture here, where I think it's actually the ex-president of the USA, they're using iPads, they're using tablets, so that could change. A study by Harvard showed that when they were running all kinds of independent systems like online learning or even tutorial learning, that students could accurately answer 90% of the questions when experts were unavailable. So the answer there is, get the expert to answer the 10% of questions, not to teach the students all the content and answer all the questions. And that saves time and money. We're seeing a change in digital credits. We're used to actually undergraduate degrees, BScs, MScs, whatever you call the undergraduate degree in medicine. But now we're seeing micro-credentials, small skills courses, come back to that, badges, all sorts of other certificates which students and learners globally are finding useful, and they are able to get jobs on them. So what issues are MOOCs addressing? This was not anticipated, but it's actually lifelong learning. It's not just the undergraduate model, and that's what was originally thought to be what it was. It was the lifelong model. In fact, it's not. It's lifelong learning. We anticipate a massive skills gap. The new generations, the millennials, that's people actually even born in the last millennium, but now, if you like, practicing in this one, they're going to be going through 13 to 15 jobs in a lifetime, whereas people of my age had 3 or 4. That was about it. Because of that, they're going to have to keep reskilling in small ways, and they'll be asked to actually know different things, and that's where micro-credentials come in, as small courses actually which maintain your skill in a particular new field. 40 million new jobs requiring university education by 2025. Some people say that's not 40, but 400 million. Globally, it's huge. University campuses cannot keep up with that demand. The estimate is that you need one new campus of 30,000 students every single week just to keep up with the increase in the number of people needing a university degree. And colleges and universities are under tremendous financial pressure. Now, this hasn't happened here so much yet, but it's certainly happened in Western Europe, in the US, Australia. You've got an increasing percentage of students the increasing percentage of students who go to university is forcing governments and states to reduce the amount of money they subsidise. So here, I believe, the government will probably subsidise 80% of its medical students. But that may change if the numbers actually of people going to university increase. So there's increasing tuition fees and financial pressure on students, and a backlash from politicians, parents, students, where's the money going? And that's going to happen everywhere. In the UK, we say that we get what the US gets in 5 years' time, and I think actually you'll be experiencing the same kind of knock-on. MOOCs are targeting this potentially massive this skills gap for small courses, and I'll come back to that in a second. And for many institutions, we've gone past the disillusionment, and we now find that MOOCs are profitable, and they're profitable because you don't use so much time, you use your staff time better, and you don't use so much of it to keep rerunning MOOCs. So you may put a lot of investment into making the MOOC in the first place, but then it actually is cheap to run afterwards. So who's the MOOC learner now? 18 to 90% of MOOC learners, by the way, there's 1% of the global population is now doing MOOCs. It'll probably be 5% within a couple of years. It'll soon get to be 10. 45% of learners from emerging economies, that's the BRICS, Southeast Asia, or Central Asia as well. Asia Pacific, it's many of the countries which are developing their economies as they move from being resource producing countries to product producing countries. 40% of the users use mobiles for learning. And 25% use mobile only. And short courses are emerging as most popular. The strongest benefit is for those from lower ranking universities. By now low, I don't mean very low, because the only ones that don't really benefit are those from the top universities, and by top I mean the top 100 universities in the world, which is a very, very small number. And if they, although those people the people in those universities like Johns Hopkins do MOOCs, it doesn't necessarily make much of a career benefit, whereas it makes a huge career benefit in those from universities not in that top 100. And numbers recognise the career benefit. 84% claimed a career benefit, and 30% of the people who got certificates claimed that it was a material benefit: money, promotion, or a new job. Now the MOOCs are being supported through government programs and organisations and business, because they say we want something that simply teaches this. And MOOCs do that. Learners like and value the courses, and they like them for lots of different reasons: the social interaction, all sorts of things. They like them even without traditional assessments and credits. And the Coursera had this trademark tick here. This is their trademark on there. And students will come back from their summer holidays and say, I have missed the tick. It's something that's quite important to them. Right, do people really care about getting the certificates? This is quite an important point. There was a story of 40 learners in Sierra Leone. FutureLearn delivered a short MOOC, again a micro-credential, about the Ebola virus. Sierra Leone had one of the first outbreaks of Ebola. FutureLearn received a call asking if 40 learners from an Ebola treatment centre could purchase certificates. Well, that sounded fine, but the problem was they'd all used the same single phone to do the course. Obviously someone had data and they had used the same phone for the course. So FutureLearn, by the way, they tie the device to a certificate, so this was a problem for them. But they wanted to pay for a certificate. So after a lot of discussion, FutureLearn said, yes, if you send us pictures of people. So they sent just one picture. And this is it. So, all these people paid for the course. Why? There's a practical reason for it. If they want another job in another Ebola treatment centre or a promotion, they've got the certificate. So what will MOOCs look like to learners in 2025? The real audience is not the traditional university student, but the lifelong career learner. This is where universities are going to gain a lot. It's where, for argument's sake, Central Asia can gain a lot, because you can make more cheaply MOOCs that will actually sell for the same price as everywhere else. The credentials won't be free, but they'll be low price because you'll buy a certificate. They're mainly targeting lifelong learning. And these short courses will also roll up into master's courses as well, so you'll be able to build them up together. As I said, I keep mentioning that, but that's the buzzword this year. There's simple, mobile-friendly courses, and there's nothing fancy. It's videos, it's voice-over PowerPoint, a lot of peer grading. People ask, will the technology change much? Well, in fact, the smartphone hasn't changed much in the last 3 or 4 years. And Tim Cook was caught wandering around at one of the meetings. And is this the new iPhone 8? It may be. We don't know. It may be. But it doesn't look as though it's going to change too much. So that may be one of the things that will be reasonably constant. The biggest change is probably going to be in having really good assessment systems online. Because once you've got assessment nailed down, you can easily produce online courses. And feedback. don't we know that one of the things that students want most is feedback, and instant feedback? And you can get that, particularly as we're seeing more and more of artificial intelligence beginning to use guidance and work out what students are actually doing and where they want to go. Everybody who's using Google now knows that Google seems to be getting better at working out what you're trying to actually search for, and that's artificial intelligence. So what's the role of the university in 2025? This is actually quite important, and I think it's important actually here too. When MOOCs began, it was thought they would compete with universities. And universities still had this undergraduate mindset. It just taught undergraduates. Its top age was 21, if it's medicine, 24, 25, 26. And then a few postgraduate courses. Those postgraduate courses didn't make much money. And that is probably changing. What's emerging is that instead of MOOCs actually fighting the universities, it's turning out that it's the universities creating the MOOCs now. And they're penetrating this new market. And that market essentially is teaching people for life. So it's not just undergraduates now. It's taking them out of this campus and starting to teach people. So this is actually where I would say it's going now. If the centre here is mainly what we have done all along, what some of us now are starting to do is prepare MOOCs, these online micro-credentials that people have a great demand for. Then there's fully online master's courses starting. That's a big new. I think, from memory, Deakin down in Australia has actually put 400 into a MOOC. Online courses for sharing with other universities. We have never done that before, certainly in the West. We have never shared courses between universities, but that could start. And online courses for enterprise and government agencies. In the UK, the universities were asked if they prepared students for practice. And 89% said they did. But the workplace, the businesses said, only answered 11%. So business doesn't think that students are prepared for practice. And that's an area that MOOCs can get into. I mentioned MOOCs at ESCOL, and there's a good reason for it. You'll see why on the next slide, not this one, the next one. It's a very good platform. We have a number of courses. Genomics, the Minister mentioned genomics, it's pretty important. We tend to actually use, it's a storyteller's MOOC, so we tend to have a lot of people actually telling stories on it. Oh, there's no sound anymore. Maybe there isn't. Never mind. Anyway, the quality is high. You can often get good partners to work with you. Here, your MOOC is a game changer. This is from Health Education England. They had all these resources that nobody was using because nobody went to their website. And now, they were just delighted. They were saying, we wouldn't believe the excitement we're getting by just reading the comments from week one. So the partners get excited about it. Thank you for letting us be part of this. Right, that's our courses. Now, what's actually happened? This is why I'm going to end on this slide. Not this slide. The British Council was so impressed by MOOCs that it decided that it would actually pay for 60,000 certificates for learners in a list of countries. And as a result of some negotiation now, Central Asia, I think all the countries of Central Asia have been added to that list. So now, all Central Asian countries have now been added to the list. This starts on the 15th of October, and there's a free certificate for each learner who actually applies for any of the courses. And the reason that you might want to apply, especially in Kazakhstan for a St. George's course, is because next year we expect to start making MOOCs with you. And if we make MOOCs with you, we're hoping that students actually can take part in that process as well. So there's some flyers I've got here. I think actually they're all on the Amy stand, I believe. So, okay, thank you. That's it. I'll leave that on.